2023 was not a banner year for many movie studios, especially Disney. Disney just lost their ass. They had so many bombs happening in movie theaters, and it wasn't like Marvel bombs or Lucasfilm bombs or Pixar bombs or Disney animation bombs. It was all of it. It was all happening at the same time. It wasn't like one corner of Disney that wasn't working. It was basically everything at Disney not working. And they certainly have put a lot of emphasis on 2024, scaling back the amount of product, pushing stuff into the future, trying to get things right. But we do need to look back at 2023 and the amount of bombs. There's recently an article from Deadline covering all this. And I do want to put a few caveats out there. These numbers are all speculated from Deadline, using what they consider to be reliable sources regarding, revenue and costs and all that kind of stuff. Just looking at it, I would say the amount of money spent on advertising that's projected into these is low. There's also a part in there that talks about revenue generated from television and streaming. None of these movies have been on television. They've only been on streaming. 4 of them have been on Disney Plus, and 1 of them has been on HBO Max, or Max, I think is now called. I think they took the HBO out of it. Didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And Deadline is claiming that Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny generated $120 million of revenue because Disney Plus either paid them for the rights to stream it, or it brought in $120 million worth of new subscribers to Disney Plus. We know that is bullshit. There's no way that Disney was paying Disney $120 million for the exclusive rights to stream Indiana Jones. And we know that Disney Plus has been losing subscribers for 6 months now. So there's some things in this that are suspicious. But I will roll with the numbers because at least somebody put some numbers out there. And even with these guesstimations, which I personally believe are on the low end because they're underestimating how much the advertising cost and overestimating how much revenue these were able to actually generate on the streaming platforms, the numbers do speak for themselves, and they're absolutely disgusting. They're diabolical. They're awful. How much money these 5 movies lost, even if you want to believe the number the Deadline puts out there for the streaming revenue. I don't believe that one, but the numbers are still enormous, 4 of which belong to Disney. First up, Haunted Mansion burned down because of its release date opening in the wake of Barbie and ahead of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, thus losing out on the younger skewing audience it wanted. At the end of the day, the 2003 Eddie Murphy version, unadjusted for inflation, made more money with its domestic take of $75.8 million and global total of $182.2 million. Total money lost on Haunted Mansion, $117 million. I don't understand why they made this movie. I get once Pirates of the Caribbean blew up, and you're like, whoa, we could make franchises out of our rides. I could get the inclination to go in that direction. They did make the original Haunted Mansion movie, and they just made a Jungle Cruise movie. And none of them have ever been really successful outside of Pirates of the Caribbean. And it certainly turned into a very successful franchise that I thought got really bad really quick, but some people still seem to enjoy. But I thought the same thing about Fast and the Furious. I think Fast and the Furious is good. I think Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift is okay. And maybe I can't remember. There's another one in there that isn't bad, but it's a whole lot of bad movies in one franchise that seems to make a whole lot of money. But none of these other properties have ever done that. In the Eddie Murphy version, when Eddie Murphy was kind of a thing in 2003, still didn't do very good. So I don't know why they thought this thing was worth investing that much money into producing, but they did it and it blew up in their faces. But they only lost $117 million. So that's not too bad because it only gets worse from here. Wish followed the 2022 bomb Strange World. While original animation is always an uphill battle to launch at the box office, audiences have seen this plug-and-play princess and silly sidekicks movie before and waited this one out on Disney+. Audiences and critics smelled that the movie reeked of corporate product rather than magical event. Essentially, a studio is in trouble when its movie's narrative is more about a celebration of the company's birthday than a riveting piece of content. Total money lost on Wish, $131 million. I am shocked that Disney was able to actually pull this one off because Disney animation is literally what they do. That is their bread and butter. That is what the Disney reputation and brand is built on. And this wasn't even any of that shitty 3D animation like you saw in Strange World and some of those other movies. This was like traditional animation. Wish, all the pieces that you expect in a Disney, girl movie, with the princess and all that kind of stuff. And it still blew up in their faces because nobody trusts the company anymore. Nobody wants to put their kids or trust to put their kids in front of a movie screen without seeing it first. Like, I don't know what Disney's going to do with this one. Although, in all likelihood, they were just going to do a self-relating, cartoon movie trying to emulate all their other successes throughout the years with Wish. I personally haven't seen it because I've got 3 boys. I don't have girls. But this one's strange. This really does portend awful things for Disney in the future and just how badly they have burned and destroyed their own reputation with their primary audience. The American and worldwide family are the backbone of Disney's customer base, and they've alienated them to such a degree that people wouldn't even give Wish a chance and ended up blowing up in their faces, lost a lot of money. Next up, Steven Spielberg passed on directing Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, handing the reins to James Mangold. However, something went amiss. In the hands of Disney, there were reports of several editors trying to fix the film at the last minute. Despite 2008's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull being the highest grossing movie in the series with more than $786 million worldwide, many weren't fans with a B cinema score and opted to stay away this time around as well. This was especially so after the sour word of mouth and reviews that came out of Dial of Destiny's Cannes world premiere, a promotional maneuver that largely dialed back the commercial prospect of Dial of Destiny. Total money lost, $143 million. That is a tiny little sum that you could actually lose on an Indiana Jones movie. I still don't know why they made 2 more Indiana Jones movies. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is literally the perfect capstone, the perfect ending to the trilogy. Indiana Jones reconciled with his father, discovering what his father had spent his entire life looking for, saved him in the end, going off in the sunset, with their 2 closest pals from the movies to go out and live a fantastic life of anonymity together. It was the perfect ending to a trilogy. I don't know why they made Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I have never finished that movie. The opening scene when he throws himself inside of a refrigerator to survive a nuclear explosion really threw me off. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And I didn't make it past Mutt Jones or whatever that fucking character's name was. I know it's Mutt. I think it's Mutt Jones. It might be something else. Like I said, I made it that far one time in the movie. I never wanted to see it again. I didn't really have a lot of interest in Dial of Destiny, but there was a ton of negative press and a lot of bad rumors around Dial of Destiny. And I certainly remember the response at Cannes were like, if Disney can't get the most shilliest of the shill motherfuckers at Cannes Film Festival to be excited for their movie and not talk shit on it, it must be excruciatingly bad. It sounds like it wasn't that bad. It sounds like it's a more mediocre movie. But me personally, I choose to abstain from it. To me, as a consumer, there are 3 Indiana Jones movies. And that's it for me. And I did watch the Indiana Jones or Young Indiana Jones TV show. And I always thought those were pretty good. There was also a good video game out there as well. But as far as movies go, I should be a member of like the core demographic that they were shooting for. And they totally missed the mark in just making the movie to begin with. I think it was a bad idea. Next up, it doesn't help when your leading star is making lots of tabloid headlines. The person here being star of The Flash, Ezra Miller. Miller was kept at bay in regards to promoting the DC movie and the pick stars, which included Michael Keaton returning as Batman, were either available in limited doses or shied away from doing press. Still, props to the new Warner Brothers administration of Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdi, as well as DC bosses James Gunn and Peter Safran. Although they inherited this movie, they believed in it and propped it all they could as the ultimate DC time warp movie with cameos from previous superheroes. They even previewed the film early for exhibitors at CinemaCon. Total money lost on The Flash, $155 million. I think it's weird that Deadline are giving James Gunn and Peter Safran kudos for standing behind the movie and calling it the best superhero film of all time. As somebody that keeps an eye on these sorts of things, it made them both look incredibly stupid. Everyone said from the moment that you get into the movie that the special effects are especially atrocious. Everyone could see it from the trailers into the movies, yet these guys decide to put their stamp of approval on a movie they had nothing to do with, that had terrible PR, and they likely knew wasn't very good. It didn't have a great through line. Are there a couple of great character moments? Absolutely. But Ezra Miller as Flash is awful. And I do think catching babies in microwaves is an odd choice, to say the least, to do with the Flash. I still love the character. I mean, I love Flash. Barry Allen's awesome. Hopefully, we'll get the kid from the Flash TV show, Grant Gustin, and he can come over and be the real Flash or whatever. But as far as Zack Snyder casting superheroes, he had a great track record. I think he got Henry Cavill right. I do think he got Ben Affleck right. Strangely enough, he made Jason Momoa work as Aquaman, certainly Gal Gadot. If he didn't get the best performances or didn't use most other characters, whatever, the casting itself was good. The casting of Ezra Miller as the Flash, even without any of the controversy, was atrocious. He was so off-putting, and I've actually never seen a movie featuring Ezra Miller where he wasn't very off-putting. I stopped watching the Harry Potter prequel movies because he was in it and he was so off-putting. I don't know if he's in 2 and 3 or whatever, but I will never know because I just did not like him at all. And this was before I think he was ever even the Flash or whatever. So bad casting on that part and just a bad movie. And I do think James Gunn probably wishes he had a take back on that one, not promoting, putting his name behind this atrocious movie that lost them a shitload of money in a year in which they lost a lot of money. This one lost the most. The biggest loser of 2023, the number one movie out there, The Marvels, was trying to thread storylines from Disney Plus shows like Ms. Marvel, which was part of a grandmaster plan by Marvel to connect the series with movies. That strategy showed its holes here as Ms. Marvel wasn't embraced in a big way by MCU fans, a la series like Loki and WandaVision were. Lastly, Marvel has prided itself on hiring indie directors, plugging them into their system, and turning them into blockbuster filmmakers, i.e. John Watts, Taika Waititi. It's a recipe that doesn't always work, evident in this movie directed by Nia DaCosta and Marvel's The Eternals from Chloe Zhao. Total money lost on The Marvels, $271 million. $271 million is a lot of money. And like I said, I'm pretty sure they are being way overly optimistic about how much it made back via television and streaming and how much they didn't spend on ads. I think it probably lost well over $300 million, and I'm certain that Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny likely went over $200 million as well. I don't think they made $120 million from Disney Plus putting out Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. But we are on The Marvels, and this was the sequel to a movie that generated $1.1 billion. They decided to throw in 2 extra starring characters. One, no one cared about, Photon or whatever. And then the other one already had her TV show that had bombed not only on Disney Plus, but also on ABC. They put it in there and decided to make Freaky Friday with superheroes and throw a budget on it of like $300 million. That is a lot of cheddar for an ABC after-school special movie, and it was certainly special. It lost a lot of money. It probably ended up losing the most money in the history of Hollywood. I think when it's all said and done and we can be honest about this stuff with the accounting, people are going to have to admit that the Marvels lost more money than anything in the history of Hollywood. And this thing absolutely blew up in their faces. And this is basically Marvel and Disney getting their comeuppance. There's nothing wrong with strong female heroes. There's certainly nothing wrong with strong female princesses and all this kind of stuff. But once you take the girl boss trope to that next level, through the stratosphere, it gets so boring, so tiresome. The tropes become so overwhelming that you just get turned off and turned off and turned off. And finally, you get something like The Marvels when everyone decided at the exact same time, fuck this, I'm sending these assholes a signal. And that's exactly what they did. It blew up in their faces. And Disney ended up with 4 of the 5 biggest bombs of the entire year in 2023, all of them losing well over $100 million. And you can't make me not believe that Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny didn't lose over $200 million and that the Marvels didn't go well over $300 million. And I think Disney got exactly what they deserved. They're getting a little bit of humble pie. Will they learn any lessons from this? I don't believe that they will, but I'm hoping maybe they'll be able to right the ship in the future. And remember that their core audience, their base audience are American and worldwide families, and stop pandering to all the outside interests out there because it's only going to lose you money in the long term. The best example being their box office in 2023. If you would like more talk about comic book movies and Disney and Marvel and comic books especially. And if you haven't checked out Thinking Critical Patreon, that is the place to be. So much more coverage going on over there with your favorite guests like Aaron Sparrow, Doc, Jim, Nick Weiser, yours truly. And we'll be talking about the upcoming slate of Marvel movies, DC movies, comic book movies in general. But if you love comic books as well, definitely check that out. There's a link in the video description.